Good evening, Dhamma friends. We are going to begin this Saturday Sutta study class. It's 8 past 4 minutes. We are late for 4 minutes anyway. We can take that 4 minutes at the end of the class. Let us begin the Sutta study class. Before that, I just want to welcome all of you who join with us through Zoom and also YouTube and live stream. And there is another friend here attending to our Sutta study class, so that we welcome everyone with wholesome thoughts in mind. We all know that this Sutta study class is for discovering the Suttas in terms of getting knowledge on the Dhamma, and we believe that it becomes an encouragement for us to clear our mind in different points that we still struggle with, and perhaps confirming our knowledge on various subjects. And in addition, some people would like to hear new things about the Buddha's teaching based on Sutta, so that this class is for all of these I said. Let's begin the Sutta study class by paying homage to the Buddha by reciting Namo Tassa 3 times in Pali and also in English. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Homage to the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the Fully Enlightened One. Homage to the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the Fully Enlightened One. Homage to the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the Fully Enlightened One. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, friends, the Sutta study begin today with different Sutta, but related to last week Sutta, Dhammacakkappavattana. This Sutta is called Kajjaniya Sutta. If I mention you the location of the Sutta of the Tripitaka, it is from Samyutta Nikaya, where we talk about skandha or 5 aggregates. So this Sutta is therefore very significant for us to understand the Pancha Skandha, 5 aggregates, and also clinging to 5 aggregates. I was giving you a hint last week that we might select a Sutta that discuss the whole mass of suffering in details, and we know the fact that if we want to discuss suffering in full form, we have to address the 5 aggregates of clinging. So that I was able to select this Sutta after a few days of busy work and email you only yesterday, so that you didn't have much time to read couple of times. But anyway, I believe that you are familiar with this Sutta anyway, with even one reading. And then, of course, you are familiar with the 5 aggregates and clinging to 5 aggregates, so that we would have a very nice discussion after the basic information. So when we talk about 5 aggregates of clinging, Pancha Upadhanakkhandha, that is the central part of what we focus on. In other words, we have to look at the 5 aggregates of clinging from surface levels and also deepest level, just to get into the scope of suffering. The 5 aggregates are not suffering until you have attachment to it. So we are going to discuss all of these things and in details what 5 aggregates are, and also why this particular name is given to particular aggregates, and that has been thoroughly discussed in this section where this Kajjaniya Sutta is located. The Kajjaniya Sutta is therefore is the only topic sutta for our discussion, but I may take some other discourses also to make the meaning full and also more commendable and easily understood, so that you would get some other information. If you click on the link I sent, or Google this Sutta Kajjaniya, you might gotten the translation by Bhikkhu Thanissara and Bhikkhu Bodhi or Bhikkhu Sujato, whoever it is. They are all go slightly similar. So the translation I selected is from Bhikkhu Bodhi. Let me read the discourse and get into the points very quickly, so that we have enough time to discuss the Dhamma in it. This sutta was delivered by the Buddha when he was at Savatthi, as you know, at the Jetavanaram monastery. And the Buddha addressed monks by the particular common name. He always say bhikkhus. He said, those ascetic and Brahmins who recall their manifold past abodes and abodes, all recollect the 5 aggregates subject to clinging, or a certain one among them. What 5? So this is really interesting. They said that whoever remembers something in the past, they may be telling a story or something happened to them, whether it is pleasant or unpleasant. Conventionally, they are stories, they are incidents, but from the absolute way of thinking, they are nothing but 5 aggregates of clinging. Let me read further so that we can discuss. When recollecting thus, because I had such form in the past, it is just form that one recollects. When recollecting, I had such a feeling in the past, it is just feeling that one recollects. When recollecting, I had such a perception in the past, it is perception. When I had such a sankhara or formation, it is nothing but the sankhara or formation. When they talk about when I had such consciousness in the past, it is just this aggregates of consciousness. So basically what the Buddha said here is, all the past memories are 5 aggregates. Depending on how you recollect, they could be either aggregates, 5 aggregates of clinging, or just 5 aggregates. For arahants, those enlightened beings recollect their past or somebody else's past, or the history of the country or the world or the samsara. When they recollect those things, they are not having a attachment to 5 aggregates, because they are arahants. They never have those attachment or clinging part to 5 aggregates, whatever they recollect. But everybody else, whether they are human or non-human, they have 5 aggregates of clinging when they think about their past or somebody else's past. Let's say that we all read the history of Canada in a book. You start reading with the British colony, or maybe First Nation people. So you read some issues they had, or maybe you were reading about the country at that time. So geographically, demographically, historically, they are incident. But from the teaching of the Buddha with regard to 5 aggregates, they are all 5 aggregates, because you see letters, you see pictures on the book, and they are also rupa for you. And then by reading what you are doing, you recognize those letters as rupa, form, and pictures as form, and you have feelings about them, you have perception, you recognize them, you recognize letters and sentences, and you create mental, many thoughts about it. That is called sankara. And by seeing and hearing and thinking, you have activated the consciousness part of your mind too. So by reading the history of Canada, the period, whatsoever period it is, you are having 5 aggregates. And if you just a normal average person, definitely you have aggregates, because you cannot avoid that aggregate, or clinging part to aggregate, because of the nature of your mind. So suppose we talk about the Buddha in 6th century BC. Suppose we talk about the Indian society in 6th century BC. So they are all about 5 aggregates. Suppose you talk about 2050, the world. How about the world in 2050? How about the countries in 2050? So something in your mind as imagination about the future world. They are all about 5 aggregates. So friends, no matter how great you are, how powerful you are, suppose you are addressing the UN Council, suppose you are addressing the all leaders of the world in a meeting, they are talking all about 5 aggregates. So at the end, this world is about 5 aggregates. This is what the Buddha said. With regard to supernormal powers, the Buddha and some arahants and some other enlightened beings could be able to see many lives in the past. They were able to go 1,000, 10,000, more than 10,000, 1 lakh, and many fold life before this life. So what they were recollecting were about the 5 aggregates of clinging. So the Buddha talks about Vesantara, the last life before he went to divine world. So he was talking about in his kingship, and how he practiced generosity by giving up their family members and all the facilities. So they are all about rupa, they are all about form, they are all about feeling. So we talk about let's say Angulimala. So Angulimala saw a woman who was suffering from labor. Then we are reading about it. So those women who had the same experience talk about the aggregate of feeling. Unpleasant feeling is somebody else, but we of course read about it, and we create Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana, the 5 aggregates. So friends, therefore, without 5 aggregates, nothing is happening. So everything is about 5 aggregates, and it is up to us to decide whether we have 5 aggregates of clinging or just 5 aggregates. According to the Dhamma, until you attain full enlightenment, you have 5 aggregates of clinging, and once you confirm your attainment full enlightenment, you have only 5 aggregates. So that's what Buddha initially mentioned here. It is really interesting. I just want to take one sutta that we quoted last week at the end of the discussion. That is the phases of clinging aggregates. In part, it is called Upadhan Parita Sutta. It is in the same section. I just want to read this. Because there are these 5 aggregates subject to clinging. What 5? As you know, form aggregates subject to clinging: feeling, perception, volitional formation, and consciousness. So Buddha said here, as long as I did not directly know as they really are the 5 aggregates subject to clinging in 4 phases, I did not claim to have awakened to the unsurpassed perfect enlightenment in this world with its devas and so forth. But when I directly knew all this as it really is, then I claim to have awakened to the unsurpassed perfect enlightenment in this world with and so forth. So Buddha in that sutta clearly said that he never claimed his enlightenment until he complete his attainment to five aggregates of clinging. He understood what are the five aggregates of clinging in fullest form. Then only he claim his full enlightenment. So just want to know what these four phases here. That is my point. How bhikkhus are there four phases? So I directly knew form, its origin, its cessation, and the way leading to its cessation. So Buddha said, I directly knew form, rupa, the first aggregate. The Buddha was able to know the first aggregates of five aggregates in details without any lapses, and every bit of information was known by the Buddha. Where did he do that? In his mind, nothing else. He knew his form, I would say his form exactly as it is, so that he came to know that everybody else form are quite likened to what he understood. So that what are the four phases with regard to the first noble truth? He knew the form. Form is a suffering because it could create suffering to anyone if attachment come to. So that the form, rupa itself is a suffering. Form and its origin. He knew not only the form in fullest form, he also knew how it originates. Then its cessation, and also the way or the path leading to the cessation. Then there he also said, I directly knew the feeling, the origin of feeling, the cessation of feeling, and the path leading to the cessation of feeling. Like that, he knew directly the perception in four ways, the mental formation in four ways, and also the last one, vijnana, or the consciousness in four ways. So altogether, he knew five aggregates, one in four ways and 20 ways, and that is in line with the Four Noble Truth. Or the formula of the Four Noble Truth is being used by the Buddha to explain that about his understanding about the five aggregates of clinging. So one of our friends emailed me before last week discussion, and it was about this. And she was telling me that the understanding the Four Noble Truth as they are is quite likened to understanding the five aggregates of clinging in four ways. Yes, so we can see that. That's why Buddha said, until I understand the five aggregates of clinging in full form, I never declared my full enlightenment. Whenever I did that, then only I said to you and the world that I fully enlightened. So what his main understanding was the five aggregates of clinging. So the when he understood the dukkha or the suffering or the unsatisfactoriness as it is, what he has done on the other side is understanding the five aggregates of clinging as they are. And when he found the origin of suffering, what he has found, in other words, is the origin of all five aggregates of clinging. And when he sees the causes of suffering and the suffering itself, what he has done with regard to this teaching, he has stopped attachment to five aggregates of clinging. And what he had been doing in understanding the Four Noble Truth in 3 phases and 12 ways, he practiced the middle path or the Noble Eightfold Path. And it is, of course, quite similar to practicing all Dhamma to understand the 5 aggregates of clinging. So friends, that connection is there. So the 4 noble truth, understanding 4 noble truth is quite similar to understanding the 5 aggregates of clinging. That is in Upadhan Parita Sutta. Now we come back to Kajjaniya Sutta. The very word Kajjaniya is being translated into English as itchy or being devout, which means the Pali word is really appealing to me, Kajjaniya. So you put something into your mind and you chew it, and the full original form of what you put into your mouth is gone now. It's broken into small pieces. Look at the cow. They collect all kinds of food they eat throughout the day or throughout the time they eat, and later on they either standing or lying down, they chew those collected food in their neck or somewhere else, and it happens for several hours. So why do we do that? Because that is how we digest well. That is being taken into this Dhamma teaching. So when you attach to form, feeling, perception, mental formation, or consciousness, or one of these, the attachment to one of the aggregates or all are being taken you into kind of custody. In other words, if you do not become mindful about the attachment to 5 aggregates, they are taking the control of you. So you are working according to the attachment, according to what we have created. In other words, Buddha has given so many advice for us to be mindful about the greed, hatred, and ignorance. And if you are unmindful about them, they become the governing body of your whole life, so that you become slave of greed, hatred, and delusion, and your whole thinking is geared by these 3 unwholesome roots. So that the attachment to 5 aggregates are working accordingly, so that you are being chopped and imprisoned and taken into custody by the attachment of 5 aggregates of clinging. That's what it means, Kajjaniya. So in that sutta, Buddha talks about the each aggregates in details. That is important for us. Bhikkhus, why do you call it form? Why do we call it rupa? So some people in many discussions ask this question, since they haven't read the discourses. And sometimes even if you read discourses and this particular one too, you might be asking this question, why we call form, right? This form is F-O-R-M. There is form F-O-A-M too, right? For me, pronunciation is similar because we are not native English speakers, but so that I hear the 2 words are same. So this form F-O-R-M is just like those sponge, styrofoam, something like that. And the form that we create when we use soap and detergent, and the form that is being that are being created when the water falls from a high place to a down place, and especially waterfall. So you create forms. So something like that we talk about with Rupa Kanda. Form is, let's say, let's see what the Buddha said. It is deformed because therefore it is called form. It is deformed. It means deformed by what? Deformed by cold, deformed by heat, deformed by hunger, deformed by thirst, deformed by contact with flies, mosquitoes, wind, sun, and serpent. It is deformed, therefore, because it is called form. So the very definition for form is given by the Buddha here. It is deformed by various reasons, various animals. So then what is rupa? So in other places, we found the very different definition seemingly, that is Chattarocha Mahabhutanang, Chatunnancha Mahabhutanang Upadaya Rupang, it's called Rupa. So Rupa is made by 4 great elements and derived elements. So that is also being defined here again. So what is deformed? Something made by 4 great elements. Something created based on 4 elements also deformed. So for example, my body is made by 4 great elements, and the computer or the phone you are now using is also made by 4 great elements. Nature of those computers and phones is Patavi, solidity, cohesion, Apo, Tejo, heat, and Vayo, air. So these are the primary elements. And we talk about the space as element and also consciousness, but basically there are only 4 great elements. That's why we call great Mahadhatu. So yeah, this body is the nature of this body is 4 great elements, and this body is damaged by the wind and the heat and the cold, and this body is done by animal attacks and poisons and so forth. And what about the computers you have, the houses, the cars, the planet Earth and the sky, and everything is like that. So whatever is made by 4 great element, is subject to deform. That is why we call them form. So keep that definition in mind about form, and you are not going to be wrong at all. And if you ponder over and over with this definition about rupa, about form, this lot of understanding come to your mind, and you will be easily grasping the necessary teachings of the with regard to form, if you keep that in mind. So wherever you go in the Tripitaka, you find this similar this definition for rupa, so that you may remember it. And now Buddha goes to define the feeling then. Because why do you call it feeling? It feels because, therefore it is called feeling. And what does it feel? It feels pleasure, it feels pain, it feels neither pain nor pleasure. It feels these 3 basically, so that it is called feeling. So feeling is vedeti. You are going to experience something, you feel it. If you go to out on a hot day, you feel that hot feeling, warm feeling. So we call it I feel. Suppose somebody come to you at once, and you become frightened, you become so afraid of it. So you feel that that fear and so forth. So then suppose you go out and you feel cold, so you feel. So feeling is an aggregate. So because of the presence of rupa, feeling arises. Without rupa, without the presence of any rupa through senses, there is no feeling. So we all know what we are talking about, because in other suttas we have, I think, discussed the way the rupa kanda or other aggregates are, how aggregates are being created in Salayatana, so that additional knowledge should be taken into this in order to understand what this means. So I cannot say everything here, but I believe you understand the whole scope of aggregates with their origin. So feeling is such, it could be pleasant or unpleasant or neutral, depending on the causes for feeling. The pleasure and the pleasant feeling, unpleasant feeling, and neutral feeling are being decided depending on the sources of feeling. And now we go to perception. Buddha defined the perception, it perceives. That therefore it is called perception. What does it perceives? It perceives blue, yellow, red, and white, and like that. So we call it's blue color. We call, no, it's not blue, it's white. It's red. So this differentiation of color is because of the mental faculty called sanya, the perception. Our mind has this ability to differentiate from the things from each other. So suppose Josiah is here, and he's different from me, and I'm different from him. Two different individuals. So how could you differentiate both of us depending on the color, depending on the height, depending on the various other characteristic features of our life? So even if you take twins, you can differentiate them by looking at the features. So sanya, or the perception, very aggregate does, differentiation of whatever senses do in the name of rupa. So feeling and perception arise together always. They are undivided. They cannot be divided. For the sake of understanding, we can divide and keep rupa, sankara, and vijnana into a certain extent, but we cannot divide vedana and sanya at all, because they are just like the two sides of the coin. They are rising together. So the perception means perceive differently. Blue, white. The very examples the Buddha gave in the discourse is colors, but it is not only about colors. It is about all kinds of differentiation. Canada, Sri Lanka, the United States, the Chinese products, Japanese product, Australia, and then the planet Earth, the moon, the Mars, the sun, and then this life and that. So without perception, there is no language. Without perception, we cannot live. So, so perception basically does, recognizing things differently, right? Even though we have very two identical things, we try. We say the first one and the second one. Suppose that we have 10 computers. They are all equal in color, and the weight and the production and everything. But we are recognizing them: the first computer, the second computer, the third computer, or A, B, C. So otherwise we cannot recognize. So we does it automatically. So perception is defined as perceives, because of the the duty of, or the action of perceiving. It's called perception. And now we go to the volitional formation. They construct the condition, therefore they are called volitional formation. Sankatang abhisankaroti tiko sankaro. The volitional formation here there are two words. They construct the condition, therefore they are called volitional formation. Sankara, basically sankara formation is quite basic. So taking these sankara, so rupa is a sankara. Here it is said. I will read that first for you. What is condition that they construct? They construct condition form as form. They construct condition feeling as feeling. They construct condition perception as perception. They construct conditioned volitional formation as volitional formation. They construct conditioned consciousness as consciousnness. They construct the condition, therefore they are called volitional formation. Is it difficult to understand, or much easier to understand? Because it's very tricky, I believe, because what the Buddha said is not simple here, because unless you understand 5 aggregates differently with your experience in your mind, you may not be able to get these definition too, because they are very subtle. So let's talk about Sankara. Sankara means anything come into existence with not only with one cause, but many causes. For example, let's say beans. So beans is a Sankara, according to the what the Buddha said. So beans, beans is a result of growing beans again, and provided all kinds of necessary things for beans to grow, and as a result, so it is here: sunlight, water, fertilizer, soil, and your your effort, and then there is bean as a result. So bean is a result of various activities, and me and you and everybody is here because of various conditions. We did something good to be born as human in previous lives, and then my mother and father and your mother and father provided such facilities, and then they were the people who brought us to this world, and from then on various conditions help us come in our life in this far. So we are Sankar. So by seeing this kind of Sankar by a fledged human, seeing them through eyes and hearing them through ears, they are taking information and make another Sankar in your mind. That's called Abhisankaroti. So Sankar is everywhere. What you see from eyes and hear from ears and smell through nose and taste through tongue and contact through body, and they are all Sankar, because what you perceive through senses are made by 4 elements, and they are made by not only with one cause or condition or reason, many, so that you are perceiving Sankara, and having taken the Sankara into your now ready formation in mind, you made something else. Let me say this in other words. When we open our eyes to something that we never saw, we say it's just like a ball, it's just like a car, it's just like a house. So compared to something else, we try to recognize that particular new thing. So we create some idea, we create some concept. So look at the, suppose we put, this is another example, suppose we put bones and muscles, flesh and blood, and another cup of what you call oils and so forth on a table. So you have different body parts of a human on a table. You never knew before, you never knew that this is something about human. So you, for the first time you saw. So you now you understand bones, flesh, blood, urine, the food they eat, and everything. You recognize those particular body parts, and having collected them, okay, this is from a human. So now that idea is being created in your mind as a human by seeing those different parts, right? So see, like that, we have been creating Sankara in our mind ever since we are born to this world. So Sankara, therefore, you see Sankara, as I said before, and you hear Sankara, you taste Sankara, and having taken this raw Sankara into your mind, you created a new full-fledged Sankara, and that's called Abhisankaroti. It is said here, they construct the conditions. So we are constructed something conditioned already. So what we construct is ideas out of conditioned, out of Sankara. So Sankara is defined this is why we call mental formation. Formation is everywhere. The moon is a formation. The sun is a formation, Sankara. The planet Earth and the planet Earth and the water and every bit of objects, every huge objects in this world are Sankara. But what we do is creating mental Sankara by taking them into our, thinking. That's what we call Sankara here. So let's go to consciousness, because it cognizes, therefore it is called consciousness. So the definition for consciousness is cognition. So what does it cognize? It cognizes, so taste, flavor, bitter. It cognizes pungent. It cognizes sweet, sharp, mild, salty, something like that. So we cognize different things. That is what consciousness is. So now we have discussed the definition of 5 aggregates. So we are going to discuss how attachment to 5 aggregates are being created, because then the instructed noble disciple, someone who knows about the noble path, someone who knows about the 5 aggregates, is called the noble disciple, but not just a person who has only the theoretical understanding. It could be that this scholar has some sort of experience, but what does the Buddha mean here? Noble disciple here is that someone who has already started the training in numerous ways, not only theory but also practice, and also kind of realization about life is there with regard to 5 aggregates of clinging. So he is called Suttavarya Savaka. There is a particular definition for Suttavarya Savaka in the text, but I'm not going to take that full detailed definition. Simply, the noble disciple means the one who knows the Dharma, the Adharma, and what has to be done and what has not to be done in an initial way. So this particular disciple reflects thus: I am now being devoured by form. In the past too, I was devoured by form in the very same way, and that I am now being devoured by present form. If I were to seek delight in future form, then in the future too, I shall be devoured by form in the very same way that I am now being devoured by present form. Having reflected, so the meaning is very clear. In the past, I had those 5 aggregates, and if I were unmindful, those aggregates of clinging were controlled. Actually, the 5 aggregates of clinging control me. If I do the same thing now, and if I do the same thing in the future, I would be a victim of the clinging part and of the 5 aggregates of clinging. So that this noble, very learned, enthusiastic, he has enthusiasm to experience the Dhamma. That's why he is a noble disciple. Now he reflects in this way. Having reflected, he becomes this indifference toward past form. He does not seek delight in future form, and he is practicing for revulsion towards present form for its fading away and cessation. So having seen the danger of the past form and the future form and the form that he is having right now, he is trying to escape from the delightness for form. So one of the problems we have is delightness. We are seeking pleasure from seeing, hearing, tasting, smelling, touching, and thinking. It means we are looking for pleasure with form. If I simply explain this to you from other angle, Suppose we are looking for music, we are looking for dancing. Suppose due to the summer, the government or the city has been brought various entertainments into the city, and you somehow think that, okay, how nice if I go as a group and enjoy ourselves with music, dancing, singing, drink, and so forth. So now, according to these examples, you are seeking happiness by seeing different form, different things in the city. So that's mean you are seeking delightness of form. But there is a person who does not want to seek delightness from these entertainment, and he thinks that they are all rupa. Whatever and wherever I go, I see conventionally people, different ways of people, and different building and so forth, but absolutely they are nothing but form. They are rupa. Rupa khanda I see always. So that's how the noble disciples is taking the measures to get away from delightness, so that they are not, once you make sure that that delightness is not arising right now, the your past also become right, and also the future, because present moment is always going forward. uh, the present moment right now is the past in a couple in 1 second, and the future is also coming to you, so that only thing you need to take care of this moment. If you take care of your mind this moment with delightness, which means you do not allow delightness to arise depending on rupa you say, so that you have done your duties. The mindfulness is there to do that, and the perseverance, of course, is in line with mindfulness. And without wisdom, you are not doing anything with mindfulness and perseverance. So every good qualities in the noble eightfold path come into play a big role in you at the present moment, so that you um, you know uh, do not let your mind to embrace the delight. So the noble disciple here, with regard to form, thinks that in the past, suppose you think about an incident that is unpleasant for you, and when you think about it, they are all form that arose in you in the past, but right now it is being the present form for you. So suppose you are going to have similar meeting next week, and the same thing that happened 5 years ago would happen in next week at the meeting. So you imagine that these future form also are conditioned, and they are rupa, so that you do not seek any delightness on the future as well. Suppose tomorrow you are going on a trip. Right now you think about how you bathe in the hot water in the cool lake. So now you think of drinking alcohol and singing and dancing and so forth. So now what is that? The form, the future form is being taken into consideration right now as a form in the present moment. So yeah, if you think that they are all sankharas or the form, it means that you have been taking the delightness out of the future form. So that is what the Buddha said here. Like that, the noble disciples consider very much on the feeling, perception, mental formation, and sankhara and vijnana also. So whatever I recollect are feeling aggregates, and I was really captured by those feeling in the aggregates of feeling in the past with attachment. And when I think about pleasant feeling or unpleasant feeling in the future, that they are nothing but the aggregates of the attachment to aggregates of feeling. So right now the noble disciple therefore take that delightness out just by thinking in a proper way. They are all feelings that has the nature of arising and passing. In a similar line, he thinks about the perception, mental formation, and also consciousness. So having clearly defined the 5 aggregates, and the way the noble disciples should act on that, Buddha right after that asked another question. What do you think, because is form permanent or impermanent? It is impermanent for sure, because if form is made by 4 great elements, and people create sankhara taking these rupa and let to create feeling, consciousness, perception, and sankhara itself. So they were not before existing, but now they have been created, and what has been not in the context, and due to thinking, due to mental capacity, it has been created now so that it could be ended to, so that you see the impermanence of each aggregate: form, feeling, perception, mental formation, and consciousness. So that when the question is being asked whether form is permanent or impermanent, the insightful listeners know that they are impermanent. What do you mean by they are? The form, feeling, perception, mental formation, and consciousness. Nothing is permanent. In another sutta, in Samyutta Nikaya, in the same section, Buddha clearly said, Upado panyayati, vayo panyayati, titasa anyatattang panyayati. Monks, we can see the rising of aggregates, and we can see the vayo panyayati, we can clearly see the cessation of aggregate. And what has in between? Titasa anyatattang, it is not existing something. What has been, what has risen has been changing from moment to moment, and in between also nothing existed permanently. The thing arises has been constantly changing to the end of it. So that titasa anyatattang, by this explanation, Buddha clearly said that all sankharas or all conditioned things are impermanent, including form. So here Buddha question bhikkhus there whether feeling is permanent, perception is permanent or impermanent, and mental formation permanent or impermanent, and consciousness is permanent or impermanent. And clearly bhikkhus answered, everything is impermanent. They are not existing as they arise, they are changing constantly. Therefore, bhikkhus, any kinds of form whatsoever, here we know whether they are past, future, or present, smooth or rough, or nearby or far away places, whatever it is. Any kind of feeling, any kind of perception, any kind of mental volitional formation, any kind of consciousness, they are all they are all should be seen as it really is, with correct wisdom, right wisdom. What is right wisdom on 5 aggregates of clinging? Right wisdom means they are impermanent. They are nothing, they are not existing at all in the same form. They change themselves. This is called bhikkhu, a noble disciple who can dismantle. So when the noble disciple knows the 5 aggregates are impermanent, he dismantles from the 5 aggregates of clinging, and he does not build anything on that, and what he is not going to cling to aggregates. Therefore he is able to extinguish from the 5 aggregates of clinging. In other words, when we know the real nature of 5 aggregates as well as clinging to it, we know what kind of dangers we have, so that we get out of it. We do not create any clinging, any craving, any delightness on that, because we know they are for a short period of time, very short period of time. So like that, not only with regard to rupa, the noble disciple detached from even feeling, even perception, mental formation, and consciousness, because they are impermanent. So what we know is, if we attach to impermanent thing, suffering could arise. So the discussion is going further in the similar line. So, but I don't want to take all 1 hour for my reading the discourse. This is enough for a discussion with regard to the way of understanding 5 aggregates and clinging to them. So what do you think about this? So what we need to do for us to get into right understanding about the 5 aggregates? Perhaps you know the 5 aggregates, but have you done enough training to recognize those aggregates in you, and also the attachment, because they are working in a subtle way. The attachment comes in a very subtle way, so that without perfect mindfulness and wisdom and perseverance, you are not going to catch them when they arrive. So that, have you done enough training even to identify? Sometimes we identify attachment in our mind, but we are not in a positions to stop them, because we haven't developed those mindfulness, perseverance, wisdom enough to stop it. It's fine, because as long as you see them arising, that's the first step, and you work so hard, step by step, day by day, to end that force of negative energy created by clinging, so that you would do it. So yeah, so what do you can what can you add to this discussion? If you do not have any regards or concern, so it's up to you to take the time. We have 15 minutes for the discussion. We have Josiah here participating with our discussion in person, or if you have any questions, you can ask too.
If it's all right, I'll go first. So what is the relation between the 4 great elements and the tattvas?
Tattva means in Vedanta, right?
Yes. Well, okay. Perhaps it's referring to different natures of elements. Perhaps I should avoid.
I haven't read much about what you mean tattva, so that I may be wrong in answering to the question, because you're asking about the relationship or the similarity or dissimilarity between 4 elements and tattva. Maybe if I tell you this, that 4 elements are the primary nature of everything, and as far as I know, it was discussed in the pre-Buddhist era also.
Are the 4 elements also the nature of non-existence?
The 4 elements are the nature of all material things.
Okay. So
yeah,
everything with rupa, but things without rupa, not so?
Yeah.
Okay.
So when we talk about the 4 elements, they are all about the nature of material thing, fundamental nature. Actually, if I am wrong, these educated people on atoms and neutrons and can correct me. It is said that this division of matter by the Buddha into 4 element is much more advanced than those scientists today, because atoms and neutron, they are the very basic deviation of matter, material things. But when we talk about dhatu, the very word dhatu in Sanskrit also it has dhatu. That is the very Pali and Sanskrit word for elements, and that's the maximum categorization of material things. So they are all about material things. So Dr. Pial and Chandrainona raised their hands. I think first Dr. Pial. So
yeah, I think we're talking about the elements. Just to add something to the discussion, the 4 elements are the basic of the rupa. Obviously, there are 2 more other elements added in the sutra called the 6 elements. So there's akasa and vijnana dhatu, that is the consciousness element, and the space element. So in altogether, the solid, the liquid, the heat, and as well as the rupa. plus another two added, right, at the end.
Yeah.
So as far as I think the important thing here is to some of the sutras will really complement this sutra. For example, Pena Pindika Sutra, right, which talks about the emptiness of the shunyata, like it's when you it's nothing substantial. For example, when you take the form, when you analyze, it's like a soap, like a lump of foam, like put together. The body is like a lump of foam. So when you, the wise, intelligent person go and analyze and take it apart, you can't find nothing inside. That's all empty. That's nothing substantial. The same
Yeah.
applies. So these metaphors are beautiful and very useful, even to contemplate. I feel for me it was quite useful for contemplation. Although they are just like metaphors, we just read through very quickly. But even take one metaphor like a soap, like lump of foam, it makes sense. Like it's just like coming together and breaking apart. The
Yeah.
cells too, it's the same things happen in the body mass. I mean, coming together, cells are regenerating and breaking down and dying, and more cells are. So all the time it's in a flux. Although we see the body has constant, it's not constant. All the time it's breaking down and making stuff. So it's a flux. But if the breaking down becomes faster, then body is going to decay. If the making is faster, the body, we see the child growing. So in other words, you see in between, obviously, in between the breaking and falling apart, there's some kind of emptiness. So at the end of the day, you see a rising and a passing away. So these what I'm trying to get at is these metaphors are pretty useful to contemplate. Like the soap bubble is the lump of foam, as well as the other ones, the mirage, and so I thought it was quite useful. Also, the other sutra I can is about we talk about making a metaphor of a sandcastle. As long as the kids make sandcastles in the near the ocean, as long as they love it, they try to protect it. Nobody can break them. So just like that, long as we love our aggregates, we cling to them. But one fine day, we find it's empty and nothing is inside substantial. I said that, like the kids, finally they kind of break and kick and break the sandcastle and they run away. So it's a beautiful metaphor too. Like one fine day, that is the way, as you said, destruction of this. We see the reality, we let go of it. Anyway, just a little bit
Wonderful.
of
Yes.
yeah.
Thank you for adding more information on aggregates and elements, and also giving some famous metaphors in the suttas for 5 aggregates. Yes, in Pena Pindupama Sutta, in the same Nikaya, we have those metaphors. Pena Pindupamang Rupang. The rupa, the form, is just like foam, a lump of foam. And many monks at the time got into enlightenment just by looking at those form in the water. So they were able to bring whole energy into application when they saw form broke into a part, so that they compare the form inside means their physical body and also all kinds of mental fabrication as form. That's why they got into enlightenment. So pena pindupamang rupa vedana bubbulupama. When you boil the water, and when it is really boiled, you have those bubble like things coming up and going immediately. So the vedana, the feeling is like that. They rise and you know immediately change. But the the mind that is not developed on mindfulness, wisdom, and so forth thinks that this is pleasant and it's not being changed. Actually, from conventional experience, we can see that they are existing, but from the absolute point of view, with the meditation subject, even into a certain extent, we can feel that this happiness from six sensory experiences or even mental cultivation up to certain extent change from moment to moment. So that Vedana Bubbulupama, The feeling, Vedana, is just like those bubble which arises and immediately disappears. And Marichi Kupama Sanya. The Sanya, as he said, is just like a mirage. Mirage is something unreal, but we see it as a real thing. Even animals got into trap with this mirage, so that mirage is a mirage which is created by the sunlight and the water level of the
And in the mind.
Yeah, it's in the mind, definitely, actually, yes. By seeing some sort of behavior in the nature, we create that mirage in mind, yes. So because when you see a mirage, somebody else may not be seeing it as you see. So in that regard, everything we see in normal life is a mirage for us. So in Kalakarama Sutta, another sutta, actually it is with regard to magician. So when you watch a magic, you see the magic when only you see it from directly. And if you go behind the stage, you don't see that magic anymore. So people who is looking at the magic from the front will see a mirage. They might see that something true is going on, but it is a mirage. It is not something true. So perception is creating us something not true. Absolutely. So perception, Marichika Upama Sanya, Sankara Kadalupama. The condition, yeah, the conditional thing or the mental formation is just like a banana tree. Banana tree is useful when it is giving us banana. We eat it, but it is not what we are talking about. We are talking about the strength of the banana tree. It could be huge like this much, but we can peel off the banana tree. At the end, there is nothing strong in it. And look at the onion. So onion is just like a heavy ball. You can throw it to the far because it's heavy. But if you look at the inside of the onion, we can feel of it, and nothing exists in it as solid. So Sankara is like that. It's been created something very solid for the moment, but if you analyze it from the absolute point of view, there is nothing. As he said, all the 5 aggregates are empty if you look at it from the absolute point of view.
It dissolves into the 4 or the
Yeah.
elements. Yeah.
They are all, in a sense, the 5 aggregates of clinging are mental creation. The substance for mind to create aggregates are existing externally. But what the person does is taking those information into and create these 5 aggregates, especially 5 aggregates, and also the clinging part of it. So finally, some Marichikupama, Mayupama Vinyana. Vinyana, the consciousness, is just like a magician. Magician is always doing something tricky, and the Vinyana does this for us. So that we have to make the Vinyana right always just by the presence of wisdom. So thank you very much for your points, and it allows us to take another sutta into consideration, Pena Pindupama Sutta. Of course, yes, they are empty. When you analyze the 5 aggregates and also the clinging of it, they are all empty. They are sunyata. There is nothing in it solid or important or valid. That's why Bhikkhu's answer, they are all impermanent. What is impermanent is unsatisfactory, cannot be taken as pleasant or unpleasant or neutral. They are all under suffering. And what is impermanent and what is unsatisfactory or dukkha cannot be taken as I, me, and myself. So you cannot hold into things as mine when you see they are empty. So I would like to give chance to Chandrainona after Pial talks about again. Dr. Pial has raised his hand, maybe something related to what he said before.
No, I will give Chandrani another chance. Then if there's time, I'll ask.
Yeah. Okay, Chandrainona, take your time.
Okay, Venerable Bhante, Now we are studying these 5 clinging aggregates, and actually they condition in our mind. It comes as Dasana Rupa, Shabda Rupa, Gandha Rupa, Varna Rupa, all these come into the mind. So there's sanskara outside the world phenomenon, all the things outside, but we take them as aggregates. We take them as khandhas. When the senses react, we create, it happens, cause and effect. It happens that we get rupa, vedana, sanya, sankara, vijnana. So if we study carefully, we understand that these 5 actually creates dukkha. When we cling with the personality view, it creates the ditti, it creates the tanha, it creates the whole mess. So that's why we have to see them as clearly as possible, that they are impermanent, no self, and as suffering. At the same time, we have rupa outside. Those we have to see not as ganasanya. So there's a difference how we look at the rupa within us and the rupa outside. We look at them as continuity, compactness, and grouping of samuha, kicca, santati. In those 3 formats, we look at them. And then we see the impermanence and everything. And if we take with the elements, in Abhidhamma, we learn that the elements could be divided into 8. Apo, Tejo, Vayu, Patavi, Varna, Gandha, Rasa, Oja. They are together inseparable. And one of these has a life of only 17 vitakkas. That's a law. Law of Dhamma. So in Abhidhamma it explains it states only 17 vitakkas, and after that it's gone. Every time a cell is changing. So if we study Abhidhamma, we learn how every moment the whole things that they are can be changed. At the same time, we learn that the aggregates are something that we take inside. And that's why it is always creating vipallasa, like ditti vipallasa, chitta vipallasa, sanya vipallasa, ditti and chitta. And we keep on arguing and all these things happen. So with the 5 aggregates, actually, we can relate to the whole teachings in every side. That is the point that I wanted to give.
Yeah, thank you very much for your additions to the discussion. That clears many things. Yeah, the point is that they are all inside of our mind. So it is true that things made by 4 elements are existing around us. So many objects, so many items, and we have called them house, different names: house, people, white people, black people, Asian, the cupboard, the Buddha statue, and we have different names given to them, but they are all made by elements. True, they are existing externally, and even this body, when I raise my hand, it's my hand, but with regard to my mind, it is something external now. So what we do with our senses is taking those external things as pictures into our mind, and let these pictures make meaningful as something, so that feeling part, cognition part, and making ideas, and are being created in the mind. So at the end, as you said, aggregates and also clinging part to aggregates are mental, psychological. They are in our mind. So if we understand into that level of the aggregates and their clinging part, what we have to do next is to erase the clinging part, because we cannot erase aggregates at all. until one attain to attain parinirvana, which means when you done your with life cycle as arahant, you have to have aggregates. But by seeing this whole mass of aggregates, how they originate, how they come into end and giving another aggregates to life, so then you can end the clinging part. So you brought up the idea of Abhidhamma, also that is very true. So primary four elements are from everywhere, and when we pursue them, we do it varna gandha rasa oja. So when you look at, for example, I see the computer in front of me. So how do I these four elements, the object made by four elements is taken into me varna gandha rasa oja. I see the color of it, I see the shape of it, and then if I touch it, I feel the roughness or softness, varna gandha. So it has a smell, and if I lick it, there is a taste, oja, and it has the nature of cohesion too. So that the Suddhastaka, we call it in Pali, we call Suddhastaka in Pali. So with regard to Abhidhamic explanation, we take these outside things, the elementary things in this way, and create these aggregates, and also attachment to aggregates in our mind. So when you practice the Dhamma, you have to understand your own mind, which full of aggregates and also clinging, and differentiate aggregates from clinging with the support of mindfulness, wisdom, and persevering and other qualities, so that your mind is being completely freed from aggregates. So thank you for your explanation, and that helps others practice the Dhamma. So Dr. Piyal?
I was not listening to the whole sutra because I joined quite late towards the end, but I don't know whether you touched on the definition of sankhara, sankati abhisankaroti.
I did.
Okay, so sankati abhisankaroti. Now, when you look at this, it makes to me sense to me that this is the most fundamental of the five aggregates, because this kind of creates other aggregates. In other words, so the mano rupa, whatever, or in the sankhara also causing your karma, right? Your chetana taking another body, another form in the future too. So sankhara is the most fundamental of the aggregates, creating other aggregates. So it's like a self-perpetuating thought, like the chetana. In other words, making other aggregates. It's beautiful, like sankati abhisankaroti. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I agree with you, and I agree with the sutta too. The Rupa Kanda, Vedana Kanda, Sanya Kanda, and also Vijnana Kanda, they are all Sankara. So they come under Sankara. So Sankatang, this is what it says. Rupang Rupatataya, I cannot remember the exact Pali word at the end. Rupang. So to make Rupa, the form of Sankara should come into effect. And so Rupakanda is a Sankara at the end, and Vedana is a Sankara at the end, and Sanya is a Sankara at the end, and Vijnana also is a Sankara at the end. So there,
Sankara is a Sankara in the end.
Yeah, that's true. Sankara is also a Sankara at the end. So what does this mean to us is that they are all created into the form as they stand, not with one cause, not with one reason, but with many causes. For example, for me to see you, I should have my eyes working eyes, and at the same time my mind should attach to my eyes, otherwise seeing is not taking place, and I should recognize you as Josiah, and so not only one thing is acting in that, so many things come into create Josiah is here. So the very idea Josiah is here is been coming with many reasons and conditions. Though, so therefore, Rupa, for example, Rupa, without eyes, without senses, without five senses, Rupa is not being created. Not only Rupa through eyes, Rupa is being created even listening. Suppose we both listen to a huge noise outside. So we might say, oh, it's from a huge fire truck. So without seeing the fire truck through our eyes, with the sound, we recognize the fire truck. That form, that picture of the fire truck is being created in our mind with the sound. So therefore, Rupa is not being created with only eyes, it is being created with the other senses, so that Rupa is a sankhara at the end, it's a conditional thing. Why do we say it's conditioned? Because it arises and it passes away. What is arises based on condition has to go away depending on the condition. So thank you, Dr. Pial, for saying that all aggregates are sankhara, and sankhara itself is a sankhara. So in this world, therefore, everyone, not only humans, but every other living beings and all the material things are sankhara. And however, you need to focus on sankhara in your mind. That means the whole five aggregates of clinging to end clinging part and to bring peace into your mind. So that's all for today. It's 9:25 now. We should stop today's class for allowing you to do other activities. If you learn the Dhamma in this manner, no matter which activity you do, and they are all righteous and important for you and everybody else, and you find the Dhamma with all normal activities too. So for you to know, for you, if you know the Dhamma, there are no normal activities, they are all activities only. So because you see the Dhamma. So try your best to clear your knowledge on five aggregates and related things. So as Chandra Nona said, all the teachings of the Buddha, have been focusing this particular teaching, five aggregates of clinging, so that learning about it, practicing our skills on it, and centers on that is really, really important for us to go forward on the Noble Eightfold Path. Having said that, I stop today's class. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for your additions to Sutta discussion. Thank you for your questions and concern. And thank you for listening to the Sutta discussion with active participation. You are all credited by your own karma, so that you will be happy and peaceful. And my blessings to you for good health and peace of mind. Until we see next week with a different sutta, maybe with regard to five aggregates or different subject. May you all be well, happy and peaceful. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.